I grew up in the 1960s, watching those TV commercials with those starving kids in Africa who started equality at the camera with sad eyes and distant beliefs. And in sixth grade, my Glee Club teacher, Mr. Collins, had us change the words in the song we were singing. 3 billion people in the world to 4 billion people in the world, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe that the population was so big, and I was even more shocked because no one else in the class seemed at all disturbed by this fact. A couple of days later, I told my friend Susie Hollander that's because she seems to be too many people in the world for it to handle, that I wasn't going to have any kids. And she looked at me, she had realized that she was going to have three. And I felt pretty alone in my beliefs. And 37 years later, I still feel pretty alone in my beliefs, and I'm still shocked that not more people are disturbed by population growth. And I think it's because as a species, we've decided not to talk about it, to kind of tuck it away. So I'm here to untuck it. Modern man first showed up on Earth 200,000 years ago. And by 1850, we had reproduced so successfully. There were 1 billion people on the planet. That means it took 200,000 years for us to put out the first billion people on Earth. The next billion came in 100 years. 200,000 years to get the first billion, 100 years to get the second billion. Now, we add 1 billion people to the planet every 12 years. And in 2011, the world population reached 7 billion people. Now, this surge in growth came about because of the improvements in agriculture and medicine, because as a species, we are a biological success story. Survival of the fittest, we have survived. We are also a religious success story. We have gone forth and multiplied. But now we have to stop, or it will be our downfall. And just to give you an idea of how fast population growth, Bangladesh has a hurricane that's killed 139,000 people. How long does it take Bangladesh to replace their deaths with 139,000 new births? 2.5 weeks. Now the world population is growing at just 1% a year, which may not sound like very much, but 1% of 7 billion is actually a big number. It means that every day we add 220,000 people to the planet. Every day. And this is unsustainable. Which means that at some point the world population is going to stop growing. The question is, how? Will it stop growing because of famine, disease, or war, over resources? Or will it stop growing because people choose to have smaller families? And by smaller families, I mean one-child families. That is where people start getting nervous talking about overpopulation and population issue, because they are scared that I'm going to take away their rights to have children. But I don't want to take people's rights away. I want to give people rights. Forcing people to have fewer children does not work. In fact, the fastest and most efficient way to stabilize the world populations is to send girls to school and to empower women and to give everyone access to an education on birth control. And those are good things. And as a culture, we need to emphasize the benefits of having one children family so people will choose to have fewer kids. Because for thousands of years, we've been inculcated with the ethic. Big families, happy families, and only children are lonely children. Couples like myself and my husband, even who have chosen not to have kids, were childless instead of child-free. And myself, several times, I have been accused of being selfish because of my decision not to have children. And all this makes sense when it was important for us to recreate for our survival. But now, for our survival, we have to not procreate. We have to change and rewrite our biology and our culture to recognize the benefits of a one-child families because right now most of what we see in the negatives. For example, when a country's population falls, there's all this economic doom and gloom in the media because capitalism is based on internal growth. Capitalism depends upon more and more consumers. So yeah, when population lowers, the economy will suffer, but it will suffer less than if it's no more oil and food and water because there are 10 billion people on the planet in 40 years, which is what the UN is projecting. Now you may be thinking, okay, this population issue sounds troublesome, but we should having the babies. We're smart and we're educated and we listen to TED Talks and we can afford kids and heck of offspring. They may save the world. Even my mom said, "Oh, Alestra, you be such a good mother, and your kids, they would be wonderful, and you may be wonderful. They would be also wasteful because North Americans use 32 times the resources as someone from a developing country. So it is even more important that we have smaller families. For example, someone in the United States on average use 176 gallons of water a day compared to the average person from Africa who only uses 5 gallons a day. And it's not just via this poor country either. We here in the United States, we use try the energy as someone from France, England, or Japan. There's a lot of countries that have a higher fertility rates than we do free in the United States, but we all have to aspire to one child families, especially those of us living here. Maybe you are thinking, well, don't worry, a lesson to technology will save us. And yes, it's possible that we may be able to incur a few more years of resources because of some new inventions or technologies. But in the end, we even can feed and house 14 billion people. What would their lives be like? The population is going to have to stop growing at some point. So why does it stop growing instead of wishing that some invention or technology will save us? That doesn't exist yet, and we will not even sure work. So for everyone to have quality of life, And I believe that it needs to go down to 2 billion people. Which sounds radical because there are 7 billion people on the Earth planet today, but it's actually the world population of just 80 years ago. So let's change our idea of what the ideal family looks like. One is a beautiful number. And let's not be afraid to talk about overpopulation because it's not about taking rights away from people. It is about giving opportunity to women, children, and future generations. And lastly, let's be part of the solution and choose from now on to bring forth no more than one child ourselves. Thank you.